I can speak from experience in saying that people weaponise mental health.
Yeah.
I know that there was a point in time in which I used my perceived mental ailments as a status symbol, for one, and also as an excuse to allow poor behaviour. I notice a lot now that people use their mental health as an excuse as to avoid facing something that they should face. I think rather than opening an honest conversation about what you're suffering with and looking into how much control you have over that, I think people cower and hide behind what you have touched on as a widely recognised method of being able to get what you want. Now, I am a firm advocate when I say I think if you live a life of purpose and you do the right things, you are much, much, much less likely to feel depressed, anxious, whatever. I think a point just to clarify there is depression and anxiety as two of the most common themes for people to sort of have are not things that some people are born with and other people are not. It's not you have predispositions, but anyone can get anxious or depressed about anything. It's not something that only depressed people get. And I think in that we have pathologized what it means to be depressed. If life is not going well for you because either life is not going well or because you're not bothering to do anything, you are going to feel depressed.
Yeah.
And in that, people go one of two ways. Rather than thinking, sometimes life is hard and I need to face that. Or thinking, what am I actually doing? And is this conducive to a happy life? Rather than doing that, people just go, I'm depressed, I'm not going to deal with that. I can speak from experience in saying that the minute I decided to start taking care of what it is that I eat, sleep well, not be up until 3 a.m. playing games, not do drugs all the time, not be watching porn, not be just doing these things that are so conducive to a negative mindset, the minute I decided I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to spend my time doing that, I became happy. A change of what it is that you actually do is critical to this. And I think a lot of people, you could quite feasibly look at their lifestyle and say, someone says, I'm depressed. Right, what do you do? And they do all of the aforementioned things. And they will say that the reason why they do those things is because they're depressed. I think it's the other way around. I think a lot of people aren't inherently depressed. I think they live depressing lives, and as a result of living that lifestyle, then claim depression.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. I think because people will try and find the easy way out. If they're stressed and all of that, they'll find some sort of easy way out, and so they'll go like, how do I find an easy way? I'll blame my mental health.
Yes.
And I think it's basically like what we said. Instead of fighting it or carrying on trying to change it, they'll go like, I can't do it. I'll blame this.
They'll just bow out.
They'll bail themselves out and think, all right, we'll blame mental health for this. And I think this is all because it's been brought up so much since the whole COVID time. That's probably when it started being brought up.
But even that in itself, that is exactly what I'm talking about. COVID brought depression was rife in COVID.
It was.
Why was it rife in COVID? Because people weren't connecting with each other.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't go out and do what you wanted to do. Because you weren't living a normal life. So what you're saying is, and I wish I had the statistics to this because I bet they would be positive in my favour here. I would imagine that a lot of people no longer consider themselves depressed post-COVID. I think a lot of people thought they were depressed during COVID because they were.
Yeah.
Because you were in a situation that was depressing.
Yeah.
That is my point. If you're in a position where you can't speak to people and you can't do the right things for yourself, either because you're imposed, a lockdown is imposed, or because you've just put yourself in that position, you're not going to feel as good.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will sidestep this conversation because it's an uncomfortable one.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I wanted to bring this point forward and put it somewhere today is I think people don't feel like they have power. I think people think that they don't have control over this situation, and as a result they just pretend it's not there, or they pander to it to such an extent that they assume that this is who they are, they're a depressed person. You have more control on this point than you think. You do have the power, so long as you face the music on this, to change what it is that you do. In changing what you do, you can change the way that you feel. People don't like to think this. And the reason people don't like to think this is because it's far easier to just continue identifying.
Yeah, to go back on, to go on the points and basically saying it's an easier way. Do you think because of COVID and because people were basically earning their wages just sitting around doing nothing, do you think that's another reason why people don't want to go back to work, and will come up with an excuse because they kind of did like it? Of just like even though we got depression, depression was seriously high during it, and then it kind of died down. Do you think there are just some people that generally liked the idea of just sitting around, just earning money, just doing nothing, and
Absolutely.
then soon when we all started coming out of COVID, they were like, I can still use the mental health card and continue to earn my money by saying I've got mental health problems and going out and doing things, because basically with all the restrictions gone, he's earning money and going out doing what he wants.
I would argue it's not necessarily as malevolent as that sounds.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people sort of make themselves believe that they're depressed when they know intrinsically that they're not.
Yeah.
They find a reason. And don't get me wrong on this point, or trust me rather on this point, you can make yourself believe something. You can just continue feeding yourself a point until you identify as someone who's depressed. I know this from experience. You will go around talking as though you're someone who is just collecting mental health ailments. It's not foreign to me. I know exactly how people do this because I did this. When I realised that the way you think you're feeling is not always the truth, and that sometimes upon reflecting and having an honest conversation with yourself, you realise that things are not the way you think they are, things change. I think this point is contentious because it's sensitive. I think on other things, people can objectively look and go, you could look at what you thought 3 years ago and you could look back and go, do you know what, I was wrong there, couldn't you?
Yeah, no.
So we can do that on other things, but if you say that, essentially what you're saying is at one point in time you thought you were correct, but with hindsight you realise that you weren't. But in that moment you still thought you were right, didn't you?
Yeah, no, yeah.
So that happens with our mind. We can genuinely think and affirm ourselves that we're right.
Self-manifest into our brains.
Yes, exactly. We can think that we're right and be wrong.
Yeah.
That happens with mental health. People think that they are depressed. Now, I would argue that it is easier to be depressed nowadays. Yeah. But I think it comes back to that self-diagnosis that people are doing far too often. I think it is easier to be depressed, and you can be depressed without being someone who is predisposed to depression. If you spend your time on your phone all day, eating shit, not speaking to anyone, not going out, not exercising, you're going to feel depressed. Yeah. You will be depressed, but you're not someone with depression. There is a difference.
Yeah.
If someone is predisposed and they have Anthony Bourdain, do you know who Anthony Bourdain is?
Explain.
Anthony Bourdain was a world-class chef.
Okay.
He lived a wonderful life, exploring the world, had fame, money, success, status, all of the things.
Yeah.
Very unfortunately, very sadly committed suicide. In his suicide note, he said, I've lived the most wonderful of lives and I just can't be happy. That's what depression is. That is depression.
Yeah.
Now, the difference here is people can feel that way. Anyone can feel that way.
Yeah.
My point being, most people, I'm sorry if this breaks hearts, do not have that level of depression. That is clinical depression of the highest form.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have that, but they think they do. And my point is, we sort of hold on to that perspective so strongly. We identify with it so strongly.
Yeah.
And we refuse to let it go. And in doing so, we refuse to let ourselves actually be happy. I speak from experience in saying I am a happy person. I enjoy the world. Don't get me wrong. I am also a stressed person. I'm also someone who experiences depression reasonably often sometimes. But I know when I do the right things, I'm far more likely to be happy, or at least happier than I would have been.
Yes, and I like I said, the idea of being clinically depressed. If you're doing all these things like have money, go out and do this, and you're still not happy, then yes, you're clinically depressed.
That's the difference, though.
That's different. Yeah, and
a lot of people don't have any of those things.
No.
A lot of people, and let's boil it back, because not everyone's going to have fame and esteem and all the rest of it. Let's boil it back to what those things provide you with. Those things provide you with purpose. They provide you with entertainment. They provide you with connection. They provide you with experiences. They provide you with good parts of life.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have any access to that because they withhold themselves from having that access.
Yeah.
I think if people could open up a channel of communication that is based in honesty and look and go, I'm not really doing what someone who's happy would do.
Yeah.
Then, as we said with lying, this is about lying to yourself.
Yeah, it's lying, but
Would you be happier if you let go of that association? Or at least tried to. Now, this is the point I would make, is people can try. You can try. You can see what happens.
Yeah.
You may well do these things and think, I'm still struggling. Maybe. But try. You don't know until you try. And a lot of people just hide behind it and say, I can't do it. Yes, you can. You're telling yourself that you can't because it's comfortable to tell yourself that you can't. We are masters of self-manipulation, and we don't like to face that because it's earth-shattering. Trust me, when you face the music on this point, which often comes, I mean, for me, this was involuntary to a large extent. This was me living a depressing life for years, and all of a sudden something just went. I thought, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore, and I changed.
Yeah.
And I decided I was not doing that anymore. That is my point. You can make that decision. A lot of people can make that decision, and we choose not to. You can make it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got everything. Point. I think we stop doing things and we just say it's depression.
Yeah.
And why can't I be happy? It's like I'm like. Well, I think I'm the way you say it. I feel absolutely purpose for that. I think around 2021, 22, I was probably doing the same thing. I was like, I was just sitting in my room doing nothing, and I was just like, oh, I'm depressed. But then, for some reason, around that time when I was doing stuff I enjoyed and stuff like that, I didn't feel depressed anymore.
Exactly. You were living a depressing life.
I was living a depressing life, but I wasn't depressed.
Yeah.
And it was just. I'm basically saying that I can just sit around doing this, doing that. That is just depressing because you're not doing anything. But if you stimulate yourself to do something, and like I'm saying, doing something, it's enjoyable. And like you say, are we just lying to ourselves?
Yeah,
are we just saying?
A lot of people are.
Are we just lying to ourselves and just saying, "Oh, I've got depression," and we're basically just saying, "Oh, I'm doing this and doing that. I must have depression," even though if we were to do something and then we basically go out and in depression, we're just lying that we have depression, doing depressing things, even though we don't have depression. When we don't, we basically choose when we're going to have depression.
Yes, yeah, and people do. It's as and when it suits.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I don't want to go to work today. I'm just going to say I've got depression.
If you find yourself on a sunny beach with all of your friends, with all the things that you want around you, and then you don't feel good,
then
you should see a therapist.
Exactly.
Then you should, and this still stands as my point, take action, do something. You have the control to do something,
And-
even if you're clinically depressed. And I'm going to segue here into genuine depression. Even if you are depressed and you sit on that beach and it's just something is wrong, you can still do something about that.
Yeah.
And people don't.
Yeah, people don't. Exactly. And
Now, I
yeah,
want to
sorry.
clear that up just for the sake of respect towards the people that struggle with
Yes,
this.
not 100%. We respect everyone.
It's hard.
It is hard.
A lot of people find this tremendously difficult. My point is here, the human psyche and the psyche in all of our heads and the psyche of anyone listening is much stronger than you think it is. You do have the power to go against the way you feel.
Yeah.
You can know
You are strong enough.
that you feel shit today.
Yeah.
And that it's not the day for you, and that this is just this ambient feeling of insufficiency persists. You can feel that way, and you can still do something about it. It comes down to strength, and at some point, you have to subvert and go against the way that you're feeling. A lot of people, totally understandably, assume that the way they're thinking and the way they're feeling is the way they have to be. I don't want to do a lot of the things that I do, but I still do them because I know that it's good to do them. But I don't run into the cold shower going, oh yay, it's -3 outside and I'm freezing cold in here as well.
Yeah.
I don't run into wanting to do that. My point there is, you can do something you don't want to do, and that thing can be good for you.
Yeah, and you're fully on it. It's like you're just. I think, and like I said, it is truly difficult to put yourself out of that state. If you get into a routine of that state of just pretending or like lying to yourself for depression, it is so hard to get out. And for the people that generally are depressed, it is the worst feeling in the world. And I generally believe if all those people that kind of like line themselves to say depression, and the people that go out with all their friends drinking, but they're still not drinking and like singing, walking, and still not happy, they're the ones that truly deserve to get therapy. And if people stop lying to themselves, I bet that list in the mental health would go down.
It would.
It would go down so much. And the people that generally I just need it would get the help so much quicker. And I think a lot of people don't want to get therapy because the whole queue's about 2 years, and like, is there a point? It's like
that's a absurd thing.
I know.
And this is the point: is that in itself should provide you with some impetus to go, am I going to wait 2 years to sort this, or am I going to at least try on my own behalf?
Exactly.
What I want to sort of encapsulate this in is I totally appreciate that this is a contentious topic.
It is.
People will disagree with me. People will understand the perspective and will excuse their actions. They'll say, no, I'm depressed. My point here is depression is largely embedded in a feeling of lack of control.
Yeah.
It's feeling as though life is just happening to you and you can't help but be sad about it.
We all want to just be in control of our own destiny. But
you have more control than you think you do.
Yeah.
And in that control, you can find happiness.
Exactly.
Depression makes you think you don't want happiness. I've frequently thought, I'm almost too happy. I want to be sad in some senses. Depression makes you think that sadness is a good thing. And the awful part of depression is embedded and takes and exploits our desire to remain in the place that we are. That avoidance of risk is why people will stay in abusive relationships, because it's what you know. Depression becomes your friend. Depression becomes what you know. And it's the devil that you know. You would rather be depressed and know what that means than venture out into the abnormalities and the possibilities of life.
Yeah, your point's fully on point. We're just, like I said, it becomes in second nature to us. If you've had it for a long time, it becomes second nature, and you feel like you need that bit of sadness, even though, like, you have the right to be sad. It's a normal feeling. Like, I'm just saying, it's the normal feeling to be sad, but then there's overusing it to make yourself feel worse when you don't need to make yourself feel worse. You can be sad. Like I said, there are going to be sad things in your life to happen. There's not every single day will be all sunshine and roses, but it's how you respond to it and how you realise you're not going to put yourself in a hole. Because if you can, you can have 2 or 3 days, 1 day or 2 days sadness, but if you can dig yourself out of that hole, and you will feel like you were a success because you told yourself that you can do it. You can fight out the depression. You can make yourself better and stronger. And if you do find yourself that you put yourself back into the hole, you've done it once before. You can do it again. And if you can do it again, you can make yourself so much better, and you will feel as a confident, successful, loyal, honest person, and you can work on yourself. And work on yourself, it takes time to work on yourself. It takes loads of time. But if you can work on yourself and you can get out of routines, get out of holes, do routines, do the same things, do different things, keep your mind open, I 100% believe you'll be 10 times happier, and you can finally, and then you can achieve your dreams, go on to do successful things, because you're starting to process things in a nice way and make yourself feel happy. But like I said, it takes time. It's not going to just go like a switch and overnight. And I really hope people, when listen to this, can understand that you can try. I know it's hard. Don't tell me I am more guilty than this than anyone. You put yourself in a hole and it is horrible and horrible to get out. But if you can try, you're on the first step to recovery. And I think trying is the first, like I said, first step to recovery. And if you can do that, the sky's the limit. And I genuinely believe that.
The pursuit of your better self will always be a good idea.